All right, folks, so we're kind of racing against time today because the sun is starting to go down, and it's been one of those days where I wanted to be up here about 2 or 3 hours ago, but you know, sometimes things don't work out. So we got to get moving on this, and so what we're going to do is, because I don't have any empty magazines, we're going to go ahead and shoot a magazine of factory ammo through the Chrono, and we'll get some results from that. Then we will start on our load, and then we'll do a little bit of accuracy testing, and by then I think the sun will probably be going down, so let's get cracking. Okay, this is the 71 grain factory ammo. Let's give it a little shot here. 946. 946. 946. 921. 949. 931. 951. 935. 960. 954. 932. All right. Okay, so here we go. We're going to try out the 71 grain berries. So let's hope these shoot pretty well. So I'm excited to see. And let's see here. All right. 771. 755. 794. 728. 785. 781. 765. 757. 736. 787. 764. All right, folks, so as usual, it's always an adventure, so trying to get this done before the sun goes down, because probably in about 10 to 20 minutes here, it's going to start turning pretty cold and pretty dark pretty fast. So you will see what happened here in a second, but it hasn't happened to me for about 10 years now. And, well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. So first off, we'll talk about the factory ammo. So that was the group that I shot up top. You know, not too bad. Pretty much, I think I shot that, looks like at 20 some yards there. So, you know, decent group. In terms of the chrono data that we got from that, overall, I would say it was pretty consistent. We were 946, 921, 949. 931, 951, 935, 961, 952, 932, 922. So not too bad in terms of, I've seen tighter consistency with factory ammo before, but you know, not too bad. And I think the accuracy was just fine. Then at the bottom there, we have a group that we shot with the Berries tight group. And really at the end of the day, there's a couple shots there that we had that group there. It was pretty close, and a couple kind of close there, and a little bit of a spread overall. Probably the spread pretty much comes out about the same as the factory ammo. So in terms of accuracy, we're not really stepping up over factory ammo, at least from those groups right there. Now, one thing that was apparent to me was that in terms of the power and the speed, we were down kind of a fair bit there into the 700s. And on especially the last one I shot, it felt a bit weak. So we were at 771, 755, 794, 728, 785, 781, 765, 757, 736, 787, 780, 764. So well down in the 700s there. And the other thing that I noticed that was kind of starting to become apparent as well was that, I don't know if the sun can kind of pick this out, hold on a sec, is that we were getting kind of some, the cases were pretty scorched, and this one, I don't know, it doesn't seem to come out as well on the camera as it does in my naked eye, but anyways, the cases were pretty kind of scorched overall, and usually that points to low pressure or not having enough crimp, and I think we have plenty of crimp. There's no problem there. We're obviously kind of maybe a little bit weak in terms of the speed. So what ended up happening was I shot all this, everything went fine, and then I had a little pop. Now, sometimes what can happen is, I haven't had this happen for probably 10 years now, but you can have where the primer ignites, but the powder doesn't ignite. And so you can end up with basically a squib. So something happened in terms of, I basically pulled the trigger, heard like a little pop, and something was clearly quite wrong. The entire gun ended up being locked up, and guess what? We have a bullet in the barrel. So with the gun locked up basically, and it appears that the powder probably did ignite some, but it's kind of unclear exactly what happened, whether all of it ignited or some of it ignited, or kind of what exactly went down. But anyways, the gun was all locked up, and then I kind of had to basically take it down and essentially hammer it out, and we got a bullet stuck in the barrel. Ain't that fun? So I think that's the first time that's happened to me. Like I said, I think the last time was like 2013 or something when that happened. Okay, so first thing is in regards to the squib. It could be potentially that the primer ignited, but for whatever reason, the full powder charge didn't ignite. I believe there was a powder charge in there because there was some basically powder residue, some powder flakes. And also too, there was a bit of scorching, and kind of the case itself was a bit sooty. So if we hadn't put a powder charge in there at all, it would have just been the primer basically that would have ignited and basically popped the bullet out of the case, and you wouldn't have seen all that residue, but I did see a bunch of residue, and it's a little bit kind of cleaned up from now from handling it so much, but you know, the case, the bullet itself, you know, had a fair bit of residue on it. Not as much anymore, but it did when I first got it out of the barrel. And also, like I said, the case. So I believe there was a powder charge in there. It wasn't a thing of where hey, I forgot to put a powder charge in. So that is one thing you do have to watch when you're reloading, is to make sure you get that powder charge in there, and that you also check your powder measure as well to make sure that it's dropping. I actually went, as soon as I got back yesterday, checked the powder measure to make sure that it's still dropping. Yep, 2.1. Checked it several times, still dropping 2.1, so we're good on that. So here's a couple of things that we can kind of look at that might be kind of an issue, one of which is bullet size. So we know these Berry's bullets, they are 0.312 of an inch in diameter, and with a lot of 32 ACP firearms, you get kind of a variance in terms of the barrel, anywhere between 0.308 all the way up to 0.313. And typically it tends to be a European American thing, where the tighter barrels tend to be more European, and we do have our Beretta here. So this could be a case of where we have a big booty American bullet that is trying to get itself through that barrel potentially, and you know, in that case, especially with the lower velocity, it just didn't want to go. So you know, that potentially could be an issue. I believe one of my one of the people that were watching some of the earlier videos, I believe the one dude that I was talking to said that he sized all of his 32 ACP bullets regardless. So basically taking this and running it through a sizer, sizing it down a few thousandths. So you know, potentially that could be something where I might have to look at that. Second thing is the powder charge. Well, definitely one thing that we knew was that with the velocities we were getting, it was quite a bit low. And like I said, I was expecting mid 800s, and you know, we're getting mid 700s. So potentially we might have to raise the powder charge and kind of work our way up on that. You know, the next thing I think, which is potentially, this is kind of where probably, I'm guessing, where a lot of the problem is, and that is the primer. And I'll tell you this, you know, I have a bunch of those S&B primers that I got cheap years ago at Cabela's. For the most part, like a 9mm, they seem to work fine. Some of the other projects I've done with them, with 38 Special, 45 ACP, now with this, one thing I notice with these is these primers, they tend to be more of a pain in the ass. And for the most part, they have tended to kind of give me more issues, where when I'm using CCI primers, never have a problem. Never have a problem seating the primers. Never have a problem with consistency with the primers, igniting the powder charge, nothing. So with these S&B primers, they do seem to be a bit weaker. Okay, and it just seems to be a thing with those primers where they just don't seem to have the oomph that those CCI primers do to ignite stuff. So one potential change that we could do, if we did want to test out that theory, is I'd have to go back, resize some 32 ACP cases, expand them, seat some CCI primers in them, and then come back, go through the whole routine again, load some up basically with the CCI primers, same powder charge, and see what we get. And I have to say, that is kind of a tempting solution in terms of to narrow things down and eliminate various possibilities. Because if we go and we install a CCI primer, and then we end up getting 50 or 100 feet per second more, which I don't think it'd probably be that much, but if we do see a noticeable difference, then we have to kind of start questioning things and go, okay. So for you reloaders out there, that's one thing to always kind of keep in mind with your primers, is that there are production and manufacturer differences with primers. And so just because someone is using a powder charge or whatever to load a certain cartridge, if they're using a totally different primer from some other manufacturer, some other continent, it could be a thing where you could end up seeing some significant differences there. That's why, like with 300 Blackout, for instance, I use CCI number 41 primers all the time. They work. I know they work. They're consistent.
They don't have issues with slam fires, all that, and you know, they just work. So I'm not going to goof around unless someone can show me a primer that's significantly better. I'm not going to goof around and change it up. Okay. The next thing is the crimp. We should be good on the crimp. So one of the things that can happen if you have really sooty pistol brass, you know, as a lot of folks say, the pressure's too low, all that, and you don't have enough crimp basically. So in this case, I think we're good on crimp. If anything, I probably use too much crimp on them. So I don't think that the crimp is a problem in terms of too little. Okay, so I think we're good on that. Then the last one here is to change powders. So as you find sometimes with different situations, there's some powders that are just going to work better than others in different situations. And, you know, I've seen that in 300 Blackout, where there's variants of powders there, where like H110 and all that, it works better on the low weight of the scale on bullets. You start to get up to the middle range bullets, 150 grains, whatever. Then you start having issues where you start to see a lot of inconsistencies there. So this could be a thing where, okay, maybe tight group is not the most ideal thing. Other people have had success with it, but maybe if I'm not having success with it, then I have to look at maybe switching to something else. At the end of the day, for all this though, the primary suspect, I believe, is the primer. And like I said, the reason why I kind of have this conclusion is that I've had these types of issues with these primers before. And so if I go and do the test with the CCI primer and we see a significant difference, I think I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to take those S&B primers. I'll find some 9mm load that I can reliably make it work with. And then I'm just going to load up thousands of those with those S&B primers and that particular load in 9mm with whatever bullet I'm using. Load up thousands of them and be done with them. And then here on out, just use CCI primers. Maybe, for instance, at some point try Winchester or something like that and see if those are worth a damn. But that's where I'm kind of leaning to. So anyways, as you kind of go through things in life, you know, sometimes when bad things happen, you can use it as a learning experience to kind of grow and get better and improve things. And that's what we're on a mission to do, so that we come up with a reliable, functional, usable 32 ACP load. And that's kind of my end goal with all this. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And y'all will have to tune in to see the direction I go with this and see what I do next. All right, we'll see y'all next time. Bye.